Love that jacket.
I thought it was like a little bit Western, you know?
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, it's like a duster going on.
I like the way you said it, too.
Ready for the beginning of Once Upon a Time in the West.
Say your first and last name, please.
Jamal Finkley, Black Tree TV.
We have speed.
I'm here with Quentin Tarantino, a director who I've followed everything you've done since True Romance to now, so I've always loved your stuff. Now, you've went from the Holocaust to now slavery. Is there any other atrocities that you're going to tackle next?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have one necessarily in mind, but I would kind of agree that this does seem to beg a trilogy of some sort.
Yeah.
All right, I shouldn't just stop with two. There should
Right.
be at least one more bookend where I get to make the victims the victors and victimize the victimizers.
2, 1, go!
Right. What I loved about this, I mean, I know you always have this affinity for Westerns, but I like how you put Frank Nero in it.
Yeah.
And had that little nugget for the people that's been following the Westerns.
Oh, well, actually, I have the two Django's right next to each other in the
Yeah.
same frame. Well, that was like, yeah, there was like, it was one of those movie moments. We were kind of pinching ourselves when we were shooting it.
What trips me out about this movie is that people complain about the violence, as if slavery wasn't more violent. I think you PG'd the slave movement. But you do a great job of like showing violent movies. Like, what about those characters and those action sequences just attracts you to create them?
Well, you know, it's funny because in this movie's a little different because, you know, there's two brands of violence in this film. That's not always been the case in my other movies. You know, in this one, you know, we have to deal with the true brutality of slavery. And I wanted to take a 21st century audience and stick them in the middle of Mississippi in the antebellum South and have them see this is America. This was America then. You have to see it that way. And you're right. I cut it back because, frankly, it just, I could handle it more. But we watched it with audiences. You know, the Mandingo fight was actually even worse in the original cut, and the dog sequence was even worse in the original cut. And I just realized I traumatized the audiences too much for them to go for the rest of the ride the way I needed them to go. So, you know, I actually held back just a little bit as far as I was concerned. But that violence is very sobering and very somber. But then you have the cathartic movie violence that happens. And that's the situation where, and to play those off of each other. You know, I wanted you to have that frustration and have that pain. And then I want the audience to need to have Django to have retribution. He needs to take care of these guys in order for it to be a satisfying experience. And then when I have my big sequence where I'm allowing it to happen, then I wanted to just go all in.
Right.
You mind telling me what the hell you doing?
I confirmed that Cornelia's at Candyland.
Sure it's her.
He didn't call her by name, but she's a young lady with marks on her back and speaks German. Now, while it's not wise to assume in this instance, I think it's pretty safe. Point being, don't get so carried away with your retribution. You lose sight of why we're here.
You think I lost sight of that?
Yes, I do. Stop antagonizing Candy.
I'm not antagonizing. I'm intriguing him.
You're yelling abuse at these poor slaves?
I recall a man who had me kill another man in front of his son, and he didn't bat an eye. You remember that?
Yeah, of course I remember.
What you said was that this is my world. And in my world, you gotta get dirty. So that's what I'm doing. I'm getting dirty.
Before I go, last question. You've taken the liberty of using the word nigger in a lot of pictures. I think it's you use it like truthfully in the script. But what gave you the courage to do so? I mean, I know it's like a lot of critics are saying that, but it seems like courageous for you to be able to put that in there and say, as a filmmaker, I'm gonna put truth to the script.
Well, one, thank you very much. I mean, the situation with me is in each situation I've ever done, it's just been to the truth of the characters. And here it's also the truth of the characters and the truth of the time period. In this case, nobody's actually suggesting that they didn't say it that much in 1858 in Mississippi.
Right.
All right, that would be ridiculous. They're not even saying this, but they're saying maybe I should have cleaned it up. Well, that's just not what I do. Right. I don't clean it up. And And thank you for saying the courageous thing. But it's just this. It's there's film criticism and there's social criticism. And the people who've said, who've complained about my use of that have been social critics. And I have to say, there's not one iota of social criticism that has ever been leveled my way that has changed one word of any other script I've written or any scenario I've ever done. It's my job to ignore them and to not pay attention to them because I believe in what I'm doing wholeheartedly and passionately, and it's my job to just get on with it.
Yeah. Well, I love you as a filmmaker. Keep on doing it. I'll keep on watching, man.
My pleasure, mate.
Thank you.
Good support, man. Good.
I was just getting to learn Quentin Tarantino. So he was, again, a tyrant. He was this, do not fuck my film up.
Tyrant in the sense that does he insist on every word being just the way he wrote it?
But that's what you want.
Do you?
You want a director who, even if you're going off the cliff, you know that you're going off the fucking cliff.
But don't you want the freedom to also kind of add your twist?
Not with him.
No.
The first day of rehearsal, I'm reading my lines like, yeah, and he said, cut. Can I talk to you for a second? Close the door. What the fuck is that? I said, what you mean? I knew I was going to have this problem. Listen, all of this shit, you have to be a fucking slave, okay? He's a slave. He's not cool. He's a fucking slave.
Right.
He doesn't know how to read. You come in with your fucking Louis bag and your fucking Range Rover and your fucking Jess. You're not Jim Brown. He's a fucking slave. And then he becomes the hero. But lose that shit. Door swings open, he walks out.
Wow. Would you work with Quentin Tarantino again, or is it just too goddamn...
1,000 times.
Oh, you...
Now, earlier this week, you were at an event that honored Quentin Tarantino. That sounded like an interesting event to me because, well, any event that Quentin Tarantino's at is an interesting event.
It's an interesting event. And if it isn't, it'll turn into one.
Yeah. Boy George was there. He reunited with Culture Club. Was that for Quentin?
I don't really know. I felt a sudden urge to go to the bathroom.
Oh, you're not a...
And then I was afraid to miss my boss.
You're not a Culture Club fan, huh?
No.
No, none of the Fantastic Men are, really. Yeah. Really? Not even like Karma Chameleon or Church of the Poison Mind?
No.
Nothing, huh?
It reminded me of whenever it was, in the 80s when...
Yeah, the 80s.
I hated it then.
You hated the 80s. You're the only one who hated the 80s.
Well, I'm the only one who remembers them.
Do you and Quentin still socialize when you come to Los Angeles, or is it like he's so used to having you here now?
No, we're friends. And
What do you do with him?
With him?
Yeah. What do you guys do?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
We actually sometimes we watch movies at his house. He has this wonderful little movie theater in his house. But sometimes most of the times we just go have dinner and talk about the world.
Yeah, he loves movies. He did a weird thing to me once. He was on the show, and we had a screening of Kill Bill after the show. And so I went with the audience. The whole audience went to go see Kill Bill. And Quentin sat in the lobby because he thought I was going to sneak out of the theater like 20 minutes in. He waited for about 40 minutes so he could catch me in case I snuck out of the theater.
And you took the other exit.
No, I stayed for the whole movie. That would have been great, though. But he finally gave up and he realized I was staying for the movie and went home. But what kind of a maniac does something like that?
No, he's interested. But the best thing is when he writes a new script, and I am lucky enough to be asked to participate, I read it at his house. But I like to do that. He puts a paper in front of me.
He sits there? Oh, that's great. Is that right? Really?
But it's actually I like it because it becomes part of the thing.
But the first time it had to be unnerving.
The first time it was.
When he was sending me Django, he actually didn't want to tell me that I wasn't going to be Django.
Yeah.
That window of opportunity for me to be that young gunslinger had passed by.
Yes.
And he said, well...
But he didn't want to tell you.
I don't want to tell you, but all right, well, the character's Steven. So, and I was like, well, who is Steven? He said, just read the script. He didn't even tell me. And sure enough, I read it, and I was sitting there staring at the script, and I called him back and said, so you want me to be the most despicable Negro in the history of cinema? And he was like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Because it was that kind of challenge to me, and it looked like that kind of fun. Now, the disappointment in all that is that as wonderful as Steven is in Django, that's the tame Steven. He edited out all the really bad things that I did in the movie because he said, I don't want anybody to kill you. Because, you know, Steven's kind of a nasty character, and it seems like he has enough problem being vilified himself as a racist because he uses nigger in his scripts that much or puts those kinds of words in a character's mouth. But, you know, I always tell people, I don't understand why they can't look at his work and realize that every character he's ever given me has pretty much been the smartest character in the film. That has the most dignity and respect and kind of runs things and is not a fool of any sort and understands a whole lot about what's going on in life and in the world. And for him to write characters like that for me would be impossible for a racist to do.